Video game heroes get all of the acclaim, all the glory. They're the guys, gals, and occasionally amorphous aliens with cool blades for hands that most people want to dress up as. And they tend to be the ones that we spend the most time with. But what is a hero without a villain? A Batman without a Joker? A Microsoft without someone asking where all their first-party exclusives went? To be honest, sometimes a villain is the best thing about a game. Whether it be their insane lack of morals or humorous personalities, there's something about being a really big flailing dick that's quite enjoyable to watch unfold. A good villain engages the player, drives the story, can be the reason for playing. In many respects, they're one of the biggest reasons to see a game through. With all that in mind, I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 20 greatest video game villains of all time. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 20, Lance Vance, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Lance Vance was one of Tommy's closest friends in Vice City, and they worked together to get revenge on Ricardo Diaz for ambushing their deal and killing Lance's brother. Once Diaz was dead, Lance became disheartened at his role in the gang, believing that Tommy did not respect his contributions and eventually leading him to betray Tommy to his old boss Sonny at the game's climax. What a dick. Number 19, Dr. Neo Cortex, Crash Bandicoot. Dr. Neo Cortex suffered from bullying from a young age and planned to get his revenge by creating an army of super beasts with the Evolvo Ray. This could mutate common animals into incredibly intelligent creatures. However, Cortex also created Crash and his girlfriend the same way, planning to make him the general in his army, a plan that backfired and left Cortex as the creator of his own greatest nemesis. Number 18, MECHA-HITLER, Wolfenstein 3D. How often when playing World War II based games have you wished that you could take on and kill Adolf Hitler? Mostly staying true to history, a lot of games have him as some looming background figure, apart from Wolfenstein 3D, which dressed him in a suit of armor and armed him with quad chain guns. Eventually you'll attack him outside his armor, though he's suitably challenging and creepy enough until he melts into a pile of blood and bones. Number 17, Andrew Ryan, BIOSHOCK. The creator of Rapture, Andrew Ryan, believed this was the only place where true freedom and prosperity could reign supreme. But Ryan sunk to horrific means of keeping things this way and was not above murder. When you eventually meet Andrew Ryan and he tells you the truth about Atlas, he uses the words "would you kindly" to force the player into killing him with a golf club. It's an incredibly iconic scene and exemplifies just how much Ryan was pulling the puppet strings all along. Number 16, KAIN, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. Despite Kain's presence as a protagonist for much of the Legacy of Kain series, in Soul Reaver you play as his recently executed Lieutenant Razia, as you're tasked with killing him. Originally, Kain just wanted to get his humanity back after he was murdered by assassins and revived as a vampire, eventually becoming corrupted by his new dark powers as he became the ruler of Nosgoth. All of this kind of makes him, to some degree, a pretty sympathetic character. Number 15, VAAS Montenegro, Far Cry 3. Described in-game as downright nuts, VAAS is an extremely volatile, unpredictable, and violent villain who has no qualms with killing countless innocent people and selling others as slaves. VAAS is extremely memorable, though, due to the insanity that he adds to the game, attempting to kill Jason various times with fire and point-blank gunshots, as well as his many unforgettable quotes, including,
"Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?"
Number 14, Nemesis, Resident Evil 3. Nemesis was a hulking, seemingly invincible bioweapon that was created to prove that a creature infected with the Tyrant virus could still retain its intelligence. Nemesis would stalk Jill throughout Resident Evil 3, often carrying a rocket launcher as he attempted to wipe out each and every member of STARS. Number 13, KUJA, Final Fantasy IX. KUJA was a genome created by Garland for the very purpose of causing war and destruction on Gaia, allowing him to assimilate Gaia with the planet of Terra. And if you understood that, congratulations, you finished Final Fantasy IX. However, KUJA overthrew Garland during the game with the express intent of ruling Terra himself. When KUJA later learns of his impending mortality, he vows to eradicate all life forms, believing that it was not fair for the world to carry on existing without him. I mean, what is he, Jules Gale? Number 12, Dr. Robotnik, Sonic the Hedgehog. A mad scientist with an incredibly high HQ, but who is also prone to extreme temper tantrums when his plans are foiled or things don't go his way, Robotnik's ultimate goal is to use his fondness for robotics to conquer the world and create a utopia, a dream that he will stop at nothing to achieve. Despite his evil dreams, he is also a romanticist and a gentleman, making him more than just your average villain. Oh, and yes, it's Robotnik, not Eggman. Goddamn everything that happened across the 2000s. Robotnik FTW. Number 11, Lavos from Chrono Trigger. Lavos crash-landed on Earth millions of years before humanity even existed, with the sole intention of draining the Earth's energy to produce genetically enhanced spawn. These were then supposed to carry out all sorts of devastating attacks. Lavos actually slept for millions of years whilst it gathered power, until it awakened ready to cause an apocalypse. In Chrono Cross, Lavos is revealed to be responsible for the creation of the modern human species. Isn't that nice of him? Number 10, GLADOS Portal. An artificial intelligence created by Aperture Science that was your only means of contact throughout the original Portal, GLADOS helped guide you through the tests laid throughout the labs. She would often resort to psychologically abusing the player, guaranteeing cake that didn't exist and forcing you to incinerate your companion cube, which I'm still pretty torn up about, to be honest. And not to mention, she lies to you throughout the entire game. Hey, you know what? F*** you, GLADOS. Although I kinda love you anyway. Number 9, Albert Wesker, Resident Evil. Throughout Resident Evil, it was clear that there was a traitor in the STARS team, but it was not until the end of the game that it was revealed to be Albert Wesker, your team leader. Although he seemed dead at the end of the first game, he actually infected himself with the T-virus, becoming more deadly with each appearance he makes, aiding his plan to infect the world with the deadly virus. Number 8, SHODAN, System Shock 2. SHODAN is a supercomputer with an absolute hatred of human life. She speaks with a terrifyingly fragmented voice and is also the perpetrator of one of gaming's most shocking twists, when you realize that everyone who you thought was alive throughout System Shock 2 had actually been dead all along. It's like being a PS Vita owner in 2018. Number 7, Bowser, Super Mario Bros. Everyone knows that Bowser is the king of the Koopas who wishes to kidnap Princess Peach from Mario, as all he wants to do is marry her, which, to be honest, is a little bit weird, before completely conquering the Mushroom Kingdom. No matter how many times Mario has rescued Princess Peach from Bowser's many castles, Bowser will always return to kidnap her again, along with his many children who are just as equally villainous as him, although one of them is pretty cute. Number 6, the Elusive Man, Mass Effect. The Elusive Man is the founder of Cerberus and has the sole goal of making humanity the most dominant race in existence, no matter who or what gets hurt in the way. He constantly dictates events from behind the scenes, never appearing to Shepard face to face until Mass Effect 3, and his constant smoking is reminiscent of the smoking man in the X-Files, who shares many similarities with his orchestrating techniques. Overall though, this guy is just really cool. Voiced by Martin Sheen, the guy made one hell of an impression in Mass Effect 2, and it's still a shame that he didn't play a more badass role in the close of Mass Effect 3. Number 5, Liquid Ocelot, Metal Gear Solid. Whilst Liquid Snake and Revolver Ocelot are both great villains separately, they become even more maniacal when Liquid's arm is grafted onto Ocelot's body, before possessing his mind, creating Liquid Ocelot. Liquid planned to amass a mercenary army and destroy the overarching Patriots regime once and for all, allowing Big Boss's dream of a world where chaos reigns supreme, and outer heaven you might say, to come true. Chances are Liquid Snake is one of the first villains you remember defeating back on the PS1, and every subsequent installment of Metal Gear only made him cooler. Number 4, KEFKA Palazzo, Final Fantasy VI. There is no better way to describe KEFKA than to call him a complete psychopath. Arguably the most evil Final Fantasy antagonist ever, despite his clown-like appearance, KEFKA destroyed towns, poisoned water supplies, and had an extreme hatred for all human life, even managing to destroy the entire world midway through the game. Add to this one hell of a maniacal laugh, and you have one of the greatest villains of all time. Number 3, Ganon, The Legend of Zelda. Ganon, a boar-like demon, often disguised himself as a human, during which times he would adopt the name Ganondorf. He wished to destroy the world after taking control of the Triforce of Power, which made him an extremely vicious and dangerous villain, both in physical and magical respects. Ganon is the personification of evil, and has kidnapped Princess Zelda on numerous occasions, leaving it up to Link to rescue her, though most of the time it's her that provides the winning lipo to deliver the killing shot. Number 2, Shao Kahn, Mortal Kombat. A brutal warrior as annoying to fight as he is imposing to look at, Shao Kahn's boneheaded presence on screen translates into some of the most infuriatingly cheap, mwahahaing altercations in gaming history. Coming at you with a range of attacks that he'll literally just spam over and over again, stun-locking you to keep up the barrage, the only way to beat Kahn is to use his dirty tactics against him. And man does it feel good when you start spamming him to death. Literally being programmed to represent his conniving and vicious ways in code, overcoming Shao Kahn genuinely feels like vanquishing some purely evil force into oblivion. Fuck this guy. And number 1, Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII. Once the world's greatest soldier, Sephiroth was driven insane by the revelation that he was a product of a scientific experiment, and not a survivor of the ancient race called, well, the Ancients. Sephiroth wanted to become a god and be one with the planet, willing to do whatever it took to get there, including killing one of the game's central characters and most lovable humans in gaming history, Aerith. The FMV where Sephiroth walks through the flames of Nibelheim is one of the most iconic video game scenes of all time, earning him this number 1 position.
Oh, wasn't that something? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe below, and also the people who made this lovely video, they're appearing right here. But if you're thinking to yourself, I want to see more content, Jules, then why not look above my head, as there probably is some. I don't know. I can't see it. Until next time.